Martin,
Yes.
if I tell you open sesame, what do you say?
Well, I say Alibaba.
I think that's correct.
I think about Alibaba. I think about this man on his flying carpet.
Correct.
Yeah.
And why do I ask you that?
Because Alibaba was this week in the news a couple of times. No?
Yes.
It started on Monday with the fact that it might, well, the fact that it's going off the stock market in the US is becoming more and more obvious. So the SEC, the US Security and Exchange Commission, has some rules which you need to comply with to be able to have a listing on the US market, and they don't comply with all these rules. So it's going to be more and more obvious. And I think we mentioned it already before. Think about, if you want to buy Alibaba, just buy it on Hong Kong. You know, don't buy the ADR, the depository receipt. That's an advice. We don't give advices, but that I think we can say that rather buy the stock on the Hong Kong market.
I think also during the years we said it like a general rule, no? Like the main listing, why you wouldn't buy it, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
all
the
the
only-
other listings are like, can be handy and practical,
Yeah.
but the main listing normally is like, you know?
Yeah, the main reason for that could be, of course, currency risk, but I
Yeah.
think in general, that is also, you know, how you say that? Verwaarloosbaar in Dutch. It's also
Yeah,
something
in
that
this
you don't.
situation, but of course it could be a reason that it's a very exotic market. You say,
Yeah.
okay, I prefer to
It's
have
quite
the
far
US,
away.
but in this case, probably not.
We're going to look at it technically and from a fundamental perspective. Just the week itself, there was macro-wise not really a lot happening. A lot of company figures. Volumes are also not so high. We can say that there's a camping rally going on.
Uh-huh.
We mentioned it briefly last week because the market has gone up during July and August. So this morning I spoke to somebody and he was talking about being away in May and be back in September. Well, this year you would have lost quite some money if you would have sold everything in May, because July and August have started really well. I think we see that also in clients' portfolios. They are all quite positive, especially in July and in August.
Volatility down. I just
Yeah,
had a look
yeah.
yesterday. I don't want to be too much in the volatility, but it is interesting. 20%
Yeah,
down the last month, the last 30
you
days.
can see that in the option premiums again.
Exactly. So it's a little bit steady market, but positive.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What else did we see this week? We have some Dutch banks, but it's maybe not so relevant for the English viewers. The figures of ING, they came out. They were quite contradictory, you know.
Well, yes, like they had less profit, but it was at least better than the market expected. But well, in the end, the share price dropped 3%, so it's difficult to really analyze. And the share's already down 25% this year.
Yeah,
so
imagine that. Yeah.
yeah, not too good.
Yeah. Today we had the big German insurance company Allianz. They didn't make the market very happy. Their stocks were down almost 3%. So I mean, Allianz of course is a solid insurance company, but they were not able to surprise the market with what they've done the last 6 months. And I find a funny article again. I follow it now a little bit, and it was on the front page of the Dutch newspaper this morning about Saylor, which is the owner of this. That was the previous CEO and now president of MicroStrategies. It's a business intelligence company, and they have invested nearly all their cash in Bitcoin, and he just bought a little bit more Bitcoin. He really is a big fan of Bitcoin. He has 130,000 Bitcoins now with the company on an average price of over $30,000 US dollars, and with the price at the moment of 20,000 something, then you know that is not the best investment that you could have. But he is very prompt on it. Tesla, they sold the majority of their Bitcoins. He did the opposite. He bought even more. Let's go to the topic of today. Technical. What can we see? What can we learn from the chart of Alibaba?
Yeah, we will show it now in the video, of course. First of all, in absolute figures, the share price of Alibaba, the Hong Kong listing, was around 300 Hong Kong dollars 2 years ago, and now it's trading around 93. So you could say that's quite a decline of a price. Yeah. But of course, technically speaking, you want to know more about it. So the first 8 months of 2022, the price was around 110 in the beginning of the year, and it dropped in March to around 70, and now it's like it seems to be on the way back with some higher bottoms. So you can actually see in the chart the first line that it could be one of the visions could be that we had the lowest point and that the share is still going up and down, but the bottoms are increasing a
Yeah,
little bit.
The support levels is
Support levels, excuse me, that's the word. That
no,
is,
bottoms is something else, Taco.
the second indicator, or actually the real indicator we applied, is the dual moving average. And yeah, you can see actually that still the green line, that's the 200 days moving average. Yeah, it's still, you know, declining, meaning that yeah, you can see it.
The long-term trend is still negative.
Exactly, and that's very important, I suppose, for yeah, technically speaking. The short-term indicator, that's actually seeing that turn around based on the fact that the support levels are now increasing. So technically speaking, you could say based on these criteria, if the short-term average is going to cross with the long-term, you know, that's a positive sign, and that could be some indicator, you know, for you to say, okay, technically speaking, I want to invest. The moment is not there yet, but yeah, you can see actually that the price, the support levels are increasing.
I'm looking at you at the screen, but I should look at the camera. But I agree with you. Yeah, you can see that the short-term trend is turning positive.
Yeah, so I think, well, you cannot say that's a definite buy or something, but I think it's really interesting. And of course, I suppose you have more criteria to decide if you're going to buy.
Yeah, but you could say that if the red line is crossing the green line, that is a clear signal to step in, right? Normally.
Yeah.
Or also when the blue line of the chart itself is going through the red line, that could also be an indication.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one to follow. It's not a clear buy, but I think, yeah. If it's only
to follow,
yeah, of course, based also on the fundamental analysis. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think I wait a little bit with Amazon and first.
Yeah, we'll finish off with the short description of the Amazon chart. Yeah, then fundamentally, I always find it interesting to know why Alibaba is called Alibaba. I don't know why we did it with Google. Alibaba was not so exciting. It was just a brainstorm session with a couple of people, with Jack Ma. And one of the names was Alibaba, and then he was having a coffee in San Francisco after that session, and he ordered the coffee, and then he said to the waiter, "What do you think of what do you think of when I say Alibaba?" And she said, "Open sesame," what you said at the beginning of the video. I said, "That's it, that's the name." And why? Because that opens the door to the treasury, and that is basically what they're also doing with the company. They're opening the door for smaller businesses to sell their products to a larger audience, and that is what is the strength of Alibaba. If we look at the difference between Amazon and Alibaba, Alibaba is earning more money from this specific e-commerce part, so facilitating the sales of the products from smaller businesses to larger public, while Amazon is actually making more money on the retail side, so on the client that they're selling it to, also because they have the Prime subscription, etc. How big is Amazon? How big is Baba? You can all look this up, but I want to give you that after you've seen this video, you know everything about these two companies. That's our goal. So Amazon approximately 1.7 trillion. Baba is approximately 333 billion. Sorry. So Baba is quite a lot smaller, about 4 or 5 times smaller than in this case Amazon. Both growing around 40%. Alibaba is growing slightly faster, 41% versus 38% in the case of Amazon, and you can see that a lot of the growth is obviously coming from the cloud service, and we saw with Amazon, it's even actually the profit maker of the company. Amazon, the cloud business is 16% of the turnover, which generates actually the profit of the company. Alibaba is having 9% of the turnover coming from cloud service, and what is important is that the growth rate that they had before, which was 29 to 30% on a yearly basis, is actually slowing down. So this year they only had a 10% growth on the cloud service. Not sure why that is. I couldn't really get the finger behind that, but you see that where Amazon still is growing quite substantially, you see that with Alibaba they had a pretty high growth rate, but it's slowing down, specifically on this cloud part, which is for Amazon a real big part of the company and of the growth and of the income. Looking at the e-commerce sector on itself, so if we both say, okay, they're e-commerce sectors, there's a beautiful word for this, the compound annual growth rate. And for the sector itself, it is expected that it will grow by 29% on a yearly basis. It is not expected that these two giants will be the drivers of that. It's more expected that the growth will come from smaller companies, such as, for instance, Jumia, which we spoke about before, in Africa, Mercado Libre in Latin America. That there is still a lot of area to catch up with, and not so much from these two giants. If we then look at them from a fundamental perspective, okay, what is then one of the guidance that we always use is the price earnings and the growth, actually. So what are we expecting to see? What are the analysts expecting to see? What will happen with the earnings over the next 4 to 5 years? And they're both very good, very positive. They expect a 50% growth approximately from the earnings per share for Alibaba. But if we then compare that to Amazon, they're actually just making 22 cents of profit this year. And in 2026, it is expected that they will make $5. So there's no comparison here. Where Baba grows 50% over these 4 to 5 years, which is still extremely good. Yeah, Amazon is just going to explode. So from a fundamental perspective, point for Amazon here, right? You should not even think about it. But we are making a comparison here. But it is important to understand that there's, of course, different businesses. Amazon has its cloud service much more developed than Baba and Amazon Prime, etc. So it is sort of like the same companies, but they are slightly different. Looking at Alibaba, the quarterly figures yesterday before the market day came out, and they were really good. The figures were much better than expected. Turnover was expected 203 billion, and it was 206 billion. And also the income was about 20% higher than what was expected. So all in all, yeah, you said it technically, it's quite looking good, and fundamentally it's not bad. But of course we're comparing it here with Amazon, which has maybe on fundamental side, yeah, a little bit more to say for it.
Technically, maybe also to compare it to Amazon, it's very, very difficult, I think, to compare the charts, because Amazon, what happened actually, it was trading around the same level for quite a long time until 2022, where all stock markets, or most stock markets, including the US, dropped. I think it was the worst the first half year since 1970, as we mentioned before. So also for Amazon, it was a decline, but it actually recovered that quick. So the indicator, at least the one we choose today, is always like with a delay. No, it's a moving average. So it doesn't give us really good signals. I think.
No, it's always it's the day from yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, and over 50 or 200 days. So actually, just see like this kind of movement in the chart. So it's difficult to compare both charts. But like you said, Alibaba, it's not a bad technically situation. Maybe you have to wait a little bit to see if the line is coming. And for Amazon, you could say, well, it's almost back where it was, and I want to be in it or not.
Yeah, fully agree with you. Fully agree with you. I think we did what we told what we wanted to tell, didn't we, Taco?
I think we did.
Yeah, people know what to do. Baba or Amazon, it's up to you now. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much.
See you next week again. If you like the video, please, of course, as always, give us a thumb up. And then we see you next week again.
See you. Bye-bye.